Hello, Julie here and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today's layout is for the September 2020 challenge over at Mystical Scrapbooks. September is paint and ink month and this particular challenge is to create something vintage. For this layout I'm using Uniquely Creative's Gums and Roses paper range. I'm going to use an assortment of these papers. These two particular papers have got the 4 different pattern papers on them, so I'm going to use those for my strips. I'm going to cut them up into the 6-inch squares and then just use those for my pieces. For my background I'm going to use the Rosebud Borders, so it's this sheet here, and I had 2 sheets of it, so I've cut a fussy cut around the flowers on one of the sheets, and I'm going to layer those on top of the ones that are already printed on the thing. I'm going to foam mount those. The photo I'm using in this layout is of me and 2 of my sisters. It was taken in January 1957. Okay, so for the paint and ink part of the challenge I'm going to use this Kaisercraft dusty pink paint and this Cadence stenciled. The model is MU03. It doesn't really have a name except for the MU03, and I'm going to use a sponge to dab that paint through the stencil and onto my background. Somehow I lost the footage for the first few sections, but I will do a few more. As I said, I have 2 sheets of this background paper, so I have fussy cut the flowers from the top and the bottom, and I'm going to use this vintage photo distress ink and my sponge applicator to just ink around the edge of the flowers to give them that vintage feel. So I have used paint in my background and now I've used ink to do this distressing, but I'm going to use some more ink. I'm going to use this background stamp and my Stays On Black ink, and I'm going to stamp right across my page so that my stamps are vertical. So I've set that aside to dry, and while I'm waiting for it to dry I'm going to mat my photo. I'm going to mat it on black, but I only want a very fine border just to make the photo stand out from the background. I don't want to have too much black, so it's going to end up with about a 1/16 of an inch border all the way around. I'm going to attach my floral border across the top and the bottom now. You can see here that I have attached foam tape to the flowers. It took me quite some time to put all those little foam squares on there, but it's worth it in the end so that I get a nice dimension to my flowers when I actually attach them to the background. I've used my trimmer and I've cut a variety of sized bits of paper from the floral tags and titles and the everyday moments. That's those ones that had the 4 patterns on the one page. And I also cut a piece from Bouquet. That's the piece I'm using here. That's going to be the main piece where my photo sits. To give my page that vintage look, I use my Prima Distress tool to rough up the edges of each of my pattern papers that are going to go across the middle of my page, and I also use the Vintage Photo Distress ink to add to that vintage look. When all of my strips have been distressed, I then use my Aleene's Original Tacky Glue to attach them to the page. I vary the heights, and the widths and the lengths of the pattern papers vary, and I'm just sort of putting them across the page in a staggered style. I wanted my photo to be raised from the background, so I have attached some foam, just craft foam, to the back of the photo, and I'm going to use liquid glue to attach that on top of my pattern papers that I've just finished attaching. I did have this floral cluster that I had fussy cut from one of the pattern papers, and I toyed with the idea of adding it to the layout, but I eventually decided not to, so I haven't used that one. I decided to add a couple more strips to my background, so you can see I've added a couple there. I also added this extra blue strip in behind the photo. For my title, I have printed on this piece of paper that was cut from the floral tags and titles the names of the people in the photo and the year it was taken. I used my Sizzix heart die to cut that out. Then I used my distress tool and the same vintage photo ink to distress around the edge of the heart, and I attached that to the bottom right corner of the photo area. I used half glue and half foam tape so that it would sit flat. That completes my video for today. I hope you've enjoyed watching this layout come together. I will put a link in the description box to all of the products that I have used in this layout. If you're not already a subscriber, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel and pop over to Mystical Scrapbooks and check out their September challenges. I'm sure you would love them. Thanks for watching. See you next time.